Hello friend, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be sharing kind of an updated video of a review that I recently did for these Sharpie creative markers. These are the brush tip, and I recently shared a review and kind of first impressions of these. And after I posted that video, I got to thinking that these markers actually really remind me of another marker that I have that I didn't show in that video because I just wasn't really prepared thinking that they would be so similar. But after I posted that video, I thought I really need to come back and do a side-by-side comparison, and I think you might be really surprised. At least I know I was. So in that video, I did compare them to the Karin Brush Marker Pro and the Sharpie Stain because I was really hoping that they would be somewhat similar to the Sharpie Stained. But after doing the video, like I said, I really thought that they reminded me a lot of this one here, which is not an inexpensive marker. And so I am going to do, like I said, just a side-by-side comparison. First, let me tell you, I have, again, these markers, and I have HP Premium 32 paper, and then I'm also going to be using the Kanzen black drawing paper. So I'll show you what they look like on white paper as well as black. And again, I have tested this out and I think you might be kind of surprised. So before I turned the camera on, I did spend a little bit shaking this box because these ones I do believe you're supposed to shake before you use them. So let me go ahead and show you the swatches. I'm gonna start with the white paper and then I will do the black paper next. So for starters, when I first did pink, I thought that this was going to go a really different way because as you can see, the Sharpie marker is so much different than the Karin marker. I really like the color of the Sharpie, but then even the way that it writes, for some reason my pink with my Karin Decobrush markers just does not write very well. And so I don't know if it's just something with mine that it just is faulty. It looks like there's plenty of ink in there, so I'm not really sure. It just doesn't really seem to come out of the tip of the marker very well. And even when I did my original swatches, like on the box, they give you this little swatching chart. It looks a little bit better, but it's not awesome still, especially on the black, which I'll show you in a little bit. It like really is see-through, and that's surprising because some of these other markers are so bold and a lot more opaque. So I think either the Karin pink just isn't awesome or I got a faulty one, so I don't know. But the rest of them do perform a lot better as far as the Karin markers. I don't know if you can tell from the swatches, but I do feel like the Karin markers kind of show off a little bit more when you're writing with them. Like they look really juicy, but the type of marker this is, it doesn't dry juicy. It kind of dries like acrylic. And so I do feel like when you look at them dried, the Sharpie looks better. Unless you have a specific look that you're going for where you want some of the fading on the Karin markers. I don't know, I just think the Sharpie looks really nice. The color just looks like it's dried really evenly, and I really like how the red, orange, and yellow kind of dry a little bit more muted than the ones in the Karin markers. And so that's just, some of those are my personal preferences. So I didn't actually use the regular names of all the markers. I don't think the Sharpie ones are named, and I just put what I thought was kind of the most comparable. Oddly enough, the turquoise actually is what they call that for the Karin marker. And I don't know if I think this really is turquoise. Maybe I have my colors off, but this looks just blue to me, where the Sharpie one actually looks a little bit more turquoise to me. Maybe I'm wrong about that though. But either way, I felt like the pinks were pretty different. The turquoise color that's on here is pretty different. And so most of them have something that's kind of comparable to the other brand, except for the gray and brown. So the Sharpie marker has a gray and the Karin marker has a brown. I did notice lots of fraying with both of these. I'm kind of wondering if that's just the nature of this type of a marker with this like specific like pigment paint type of ink that's coming out. The tips also look really similar, so maybe it's just that type of a tip, but you can kind of see it here. Maybe it's not super obvious. So let me show you a little bit larger of lettering, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about how the brush performs. Okay, so some parts of this comparison shocked me in really, really good ways, but this is one that shocked me in not the greatest way. So you can see that it starts out pretty strong with lettering with these markers. I chose purple because both of them were a nice bold color, because like I didn't want to compare, you know, the Sharpie pink to the Karin pink when I thought the pink wasn't great. I wanted to give it a fair shot, so I did purple for both. And again, the Sharpie started out pretty strong, but by the time I got to my basic strokes and then I wrote hello, you can see a decent bit of streaking. And so I wasn't like super thrilled about that. I just feel like these markers, I said this in my review, but I feel like I would not use them for a longer form lettering. They just seem to start feeling dry really quickly. And it's not that they're dried out. I'm sure if I set this aside and come back to it an hour later, they'll probably feel good again. But for some reason, it's just taking that tip a long time to get like refilled with the ink. And so they feel dry pretty quickly. So like I said, I wasn't super thrilled with that. But then I got to the Karin brush marker and I thought that this one was going to go differently because when I did my swatches, I noticed that the Karin marker looked a lot more juicy when I was lettering. So I felt like this one was going to go for quite a while before it started feeling dried out. But as you can see, I barely got to my second word before it started getting pretty streaky. And it felt like that too. Like when I was lettering with it, it just felt like it was kind of not drying out, but it was just getting really soft and like I was just struggling for ink to come out. So it's like the ink isn't catching up with how fast I'm writing, and I don't write super fast. So you can decide how you feel about that, but it's not like I'm scribbling on a page or something. And so by the time I got to my basic strokes and my hello, this brush marker looked pretty bad. And one thing that I wanted to point out, which it's kind of hard for me to talk about prices because they do fluctuate a lot online. And so if I say it's cost a certain amount one day, and you go click on the link and it's totally different, I think that's pretty normal and that happens. So I don't want to promise that it's going to be a certain price. But when I price checked these since I made my last video, Karin Pigment Decobrush was a lot more money than what I paid for the Sharpie creative marker. I bought these both and I paid a lot of money for these Karin markers. And as you can see on the swatches, the colors are pretty similar. So I don't know why these are so much more money. I will link them both below and you can click and see for yourself what they cost right now. But yeah, I feel like for what I paid with these markers, I should definitely be able to hand letter the whole name of the marker without my brush pen going dry. So I do not love that, I'll be honest. And maybe these are just not meant to be used on paper. But yeah, like I said, for what I paid for these, this is not what I would have expected. But I do want to show you what these colors look like on black paper because that is what surprised me in a really good way. And so hopefully that will make up for this part of the video. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll label both and I'm going to use the white marker. So I'll use the white Sharpie over here and the white Karin marker over here so you can see what those look like. All right, so you can see here that some of these colors are super impressive. Honestly, I feel like pretty much all the Sharpie ones are impressive. I could probably go back over my white and maybe get it a little bit darker. I can try to do that here in a moment. But with the Karin side, honestly, a lot of them are really hard to read even. The only one that I'm really seeing where I feel like it looks better on the Karin side is the black, but you can't really read it. I can kind of read it looking close up with lights on, but it doesn't really translate very well because it is black on black paper. So I don't know if that counts, but the Sharpie side is so impressive. I love the color choices. If they would just turn all of these colors into Sharpie stained markers. I know I keep talking about it, but that's really what I want. However, since that is not an option, these are really beautiful and I think they're so fun on black paper. So yeah, I thought those were super impressive, especially again, the price difference. So yeah, there are pros and cons to both sides, but at the end of the day, I was really impressed by these Sharpie markers on this black paper. So I hope that this has helped you decide if this is something you would like to purchase or honestly, if this is something you could skip because I'm never trying to convince anybody to buy anything they don't need. So hopefully these reviews with very honest feedback will be helpful for you. Let me know if you have any other pens that you want to see reviewed. If you do want to learn more about hand lettering, I have a free mini course that you can join. I will link it below, or you can go to howtohandletter.com/mini course and you can sign up there. It's just a 7-day mini course and you can get started right away. So again, I'll link that below. But thank you so much for watching and I will see you in my next one. Oh, and by the way, definitely looks good when you go over it twice. I didn't do it up here because I didn't want to smear my hand across the paper, but it is so fun that you can go over it twice and make the colors pop even more on this black paper. So hopefully that helps if you do purchase these markers. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.